of the earth, the signal begins. A world connected by commerce, conflict, elections, alliances, and war. From the skies above the battlefield to the halls of power in Washington, every decision carries weight. Every border, every vote, every leader, every market, every movement, connected. Tonight, the map is alive. War zones shift nations, maneuver energy corridors, trade routes, intelligence networks, and military alliances move across the board. The world does not pause. The headlines do not wait. And history does not ask permission before it changes course. In every capital, decisions are being made. In every conflict, consequences are unfolding. In every election, the future is being contested. But in the noise, there must be clarity. This is not politics as usual. This is the global picture brought into focus with your host, Alpha, and his co-host, Chris Moreno. This is GeoPolitics in 30 minutes. The world is moving. Now, we break it down.
Your eyes do not deceive you. Yes, you are watching another show here on the AlphaWarrior Show Network. This is GeoPolitics in 30 minutes. I'm your host. I'll be joined here shortly by my co-host, Chris Moreno. He sent me some stuff that we're going to be talking about today. It looks pretty interesting. In the meantime, folks, do me a solid. One, if you didn't watch the premiere, go to last Friday's show. You'll see it down with all the other shows on whatever platform you're watching, and watch it, learn, share. And then while you're there, leave a comment, smash the thumb, hit the heart, help get this show up into the algorithm and into the leaderboards, and we would appreciate that. So with that, let me welcome my co-host to the show, Chris. Nice to have you again, brother. How you doing? Yeah, you're on mute, so it's all right. You know, I'm gonna just make fun of you and call it a rookie move and stuff like that.
Thank you for having me, Alpha.
We're gonna hammer those things out, brother. We're gonna hammer those things out. So you sent me over a couple headlines, and I was like, oh, this is some interesting stuff. I want to see your take on this. Where are we starting first?
So let's start. We touched base last week on the show, and we talked about the importance of the SAVE Act. So this is going to be kind of a common theme as this starts to play out heading into the final stretch, right? So the key months of the campaign will be following August, right? Because some of these states will start to have early voting. SAVE Act is super important. Will it pass? Will it go in effect in time? So this is an update, right? So if you want to play the audio clip there, and then it also has a truth from Trump on there as well.
All right, here we go.
Fire the parliamentarian and pass the SAVE Act. You've been very clear as to why the SAVE Act doesn't have the votes to pass and why firing the parliamentarian would create problems here. But are you worried that if you don't do what the president wants, that he's going to criticize your leadership or perhaps withdraw support for your leadership?
That could happen. Look, and it's a well-known fact around here. Sometimes perhaps not fully grasped around the country, but anybody who follows this process closely knows that we don't have the votes. And the only way that you could figure out a way to get the votes, and even in that case, the Save America Act didn't even get 50 votes last week on the floor of the Senate. But even if you confine it to just the two issues of photo ID and citizenship in order to register to vote, on those two issues, it takes 60 votes in the Senate. The only way you could get there is to undo or get rid of the legislative filibuster, and there aren't even close to the votes here in the United States Senate in order to achieve that. So it's an issue we all agree on. We're all for it, and we've all voted that way. But it's not something that we're going to be able to get done absent having an election and electing some more Republicans.
Yeah, so
on that, brother.
There's John Thune, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, the head of the Senate, that is saying that he doesn't have the votes. He doesn't have 50 votes on the Save America Act. He does not have the 50 votes in terms of the Save America Act that includes the transgender stuff and a few other things. But if you'll go down just a little bit on that thread there, Alpha, you're going to see this is Mike Lee's Save America Act amendment right there. Go right up a little bit, right there. And you're going to see this is a straight up. This is requiring requiring voter ID, requiring that you're a citizen of the United States, requiring that you provide a photo at the poll, which we all know at this point in time is pushing a 90% support, 87% support across the United States on both parties, because it's common sense. There are blue states that have all but, have essentially tried to legalize election fraud, like California, for example. But this requires it. It would seem like it's common sense. There's clearly 50 votes on a straight up Save America Act, 50 votes, and of course, Vice President Vance would be the tiebreaker. So if they include this version in the bill, this should pass and there should be no excuse.
I mean, it's clear as day. So what's going to be Thune's argument to this? Because Thune's going to obviously say, well, that's just not the way it works. He's going to have a counter to that. What do you anticipate that counter is going to be? And does Mike Leake have any pushback against that when he does?
I think we're watching political jousting, right? I think the reality is John Thune is not in control of the Senate right now, because you have Mitch McConnell, who's in the hospital and is a key vote. You have a disgruntled Tom Tillis out of North Carolina, who's going to do everything he can to spurn the president. And of course, you have John Cornyn, who just got humiliated on national TV by Ken Paxton. So you have some people who just, quite frankly, are going to put America last, which they've kind of been doing on some key issues over their career, which is why they lost. And I don't know that this is going to go anywhere, unfortunately. But it's critical that it happens, and it's critical that it happens and it goes into effect before the midterms, because some of these districts that are going to control the House and possibly a Senate seat will come down to mail-in ballots.
And I just want to remind everybody that kind of haven't been tracking the Save America Act is Trump tried to put this, he tried to attach it to the Recon 3 bill. That didn't fly. He then went and publicly put pressure on Thune to say, attach it to the FISA. And if you don't, I'm not going to pass the FISA. So he's making these attempts and he's getting the resistance from Thune. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that. Anything you got more on this? If not, we can shift gears.
Well, it's going to kind of transition to what we're shifting to. So if you go ahead and go to the next link that I sent you there, if we want to go ahead and play the clip from the beginning here. This is CNN, but they're showing NBC's polling here. If you want to start from the top.
Okay.
I mean, just take a look here. Okay, this is Congress National June polls, Dem leads, and this is NBC News, midterm years with the GOP press. Look at this. They're up by 5 points, but that's half the lead they had back in 2018 when it was 10 points, and less than half the lead they had back in 2006 with 11 points when Democrats took back the House in both of those years. And now the Democratic lead is on a single hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. And it's this type of lead where you say, you know what, Democrats are ahead, but don't count your chickens just quite yet.
And Harry, we've been talking about this. As time goes on, you and I have kept on looking at these numbers saying it just doesn't look like the numbers we've seen when there have been waves for Democrats in the past. What are the trends in the other polls?
Yeah, okay, so this is not just one poll in which we are seeing this. There is this group of pollsters that are out there that are just not showing the wave you might expect given where the president's approval rating is. Okay, what are we talking about? We're talking about NBC, Marquette University Law School, and Ipsos. Look at where they were January and February, and look at where they are May and June. NBC, down a point. MU Law, down 3 points. Ipsos, basically staying the same. So the Democrats hold these leads, but again, you have this group of pollsters that are out there where this lead, simply put, is not matching what you might expect if you're expecting a Democratic wave.
And that's sort of in a vacuum. What about in a year?
Make it make sense for me, man.
So here's what I think's happening. So first of all, it has been the story that the Democratic Party, the folks that they had that are in control, their voting bloc is just simply out of touch with the average American. And we're talking about the blue collar American that's going to make the decision in this election, right? And so they're just simply out of touch. And once again, the polls show going into the midterms 2018, They obviously, this would be a slam dunk if it was plus 10 or more. It's plus 5. That's basically 1 to 2% outside the margin of error, right? In most polls. So what's changed? You saw the shift in May and June. A couple of things have changed. One, we are seeing we're seeing the solution to this crisis in Iran hopefully come to the finish line. Okay, that's a big part of it. Two, we just had an awesome UFC event on the White House lawn. Why is that super important? It's re-engaged Gen X dudes. It's re-engaged the young millennial dudes. And they've taken pride. First of all, it was an awesome event. But it's basically uplifted that energy that we're seeing in the male voters. This is what's kind of changing this game. And then I would submit another impact that's taking place here is World Cup mania. Okay, you have all of these foreigners who are coming over here, and it's going viral all over the internet about how awesome America is. And you had this White House event, and the left was attacking them for having a UFC fight event that everybody loved. And then you have these foreigners on our soil for the biggest event in their lifetime, World Cup. And folks are like, this is amazing. We love America. How could anybody ever hate America? And everyone's seeing this, and they're like, yeah, heck yeah, we do got a great country.
Let me ask you this. Since we're talking about the midterms here and these percentage points changing, I was in a very important meeting a few months ago. And one of the things that was brought to my attention is that in the last 23 House races with an incumbent president, that the incumbent president has lost 20 of those 23. So we're talking what's that, 83, 86% chance of, if you're the returning president, you're going to lose the House. Statistically, that's where we're at. When you see numbers like this, and kind of given what you said, the UFC fight, the FIFA World Cup that's taking place, does kind of the totality of everything going on kind of give Trump an opportunity to not be? And just to remind everybody, Reagan lost the House on his incumbent presidency, and everybody freaking loved Reagan. So kind of with that understanding, how does that make you think, seeing these numbers?
So what you think is two things. This is gonna come. The American people are begging the Republican Party to just do something when it comes to an election with an issue that's 85% of support. It's common sense. Make sure people show voter ID. And quite frankly, we shouldn't even have to have a law on the books to make this happen. It should be the law. It actually is the law, but you have other states that are trying to change that. The other thing that this is going to come down to is, obviously, we talked about this last week. There's a Democratic Party now at this point in time, the Democratic Party. Only 27% are proud to be American. And I think that resonates. But the third issue in Alpha, if you actually want to take the last link I sent you from Gas Buddy, it's on X. And we can just kind of jump here and show this. And we'll skip a little bit out of order here. This is going to be a big factor. Look at the gas. Look at the gas prices. Gas Buddy says you can play the clip if you want. This is Fox.
Let me bring that up here. Yep, I got here.
Good evening, Brett. So Gas Buddy says it is possible gas prices hit $2.99 for Christmas if the Strait of Hormuz stays open and there are no major disruptions. Today, as you noted, gas averaging $3.99 nationally, the first time it's under $4 since March 30th, giving drivers some relief this summer.
I got truck, man, so this is important to me.
It is important, and so as gas prices fall, and we head into a very patriotic 250-year anniversary of the United States, you're seeing a correlation here. In March, it was the first time it's now come under $4 a gallon nationwide. That means nationwide, so that includes California and New York and Washington, these states that are, really gouging their citizens, when it comes to gas prices. And then it also includes other states that are oil, strong states that may have lower gas. And the average right now is 399, under 4 for the first time. If this trend continues, if the Iran situation actually comes to a resolution, which it sounds like it potentially could, and the Strait of Hormuz is open, it doesn't need to be $2 a gallon nationwide for the American people to see that Trump played high stakes poker and once again won. It just needs to be lower. And if it's lower and they see that solution happen, they're going to look at this other side and they're going to say, what have you done for us? What are you proposing for us that this man is already doing? Tell us something different, and they have no solution.
And if people would probably try to bring up the argument of accountability going into midterms, we see, we might touch on it here, with the Fauci stuff that's coming out. We see some of the election fraud that's coming to the surface. You have Director Kash Patel that put out yesterday that the FBI is down on Skid Row in investigating the elections. Sorry, I didn't want to blow your ears out right there. I was fighting a sneeze, folks. But you see that this administration is kind of bringing this accountability in line with the dropping of gas prices, a resolution in the Middle East. Do you think that this timing was strategic to all kind of bring it together at what I've told my audience is kind of the choke point before midterms?
Yes, I think it was strategic. I think that what the American people see here is that this is an administration that's willing to do the unconventional and own it. They're not backing away from it. They're not hiding from it. They're owning it. And they're getting results because of it. You see JD Vance, Vice President Vance, going on The View, going on this, media presence offensive, very similar to the campaign stretch at the very close, right? JD Vance went out front, and he's willing to confront these leftist women on the TV or whatever it is, and they ask these ridiculous questions, and he confronts them and he answers the questions. He's not hiding from it, and they're seeing that this administration is willing to stand on everything that they've done unapologetically, and they're getting results because of it. And once again, this is not to carry the water for the administration in this segment. This is to call balls and strikes. The other side of the aisle is still running on but Trump, never Trump. This guy is a dictator. He's ruining our country. He's crashing our Constitution. And none of this is factually accurate, and the American people aren't stupid.
Earlier today, when I was watching some of the leftist outlets, or what I consider leftist outlets like CNN and MSNBC, their main stories right now on their pages is blue paint pilling at the reflection pool. And I'm like, if that's your biggest hit right now on the administration, things aren't looking good for you.
No, they're not. They don't have an answer. There's no other way to say this. I would say if any Democrat is watching this and you are a loyal Democrat, we have some friends like on X Spaces and others that are Democrats. It is okay. It's okay. But you got to plead with your leadership to provide a something meaningful of a solution that is not already being provided by this administration when it comes to the economy. They had something going when it came to gas prices that skyrocketed and some of the grocery prices because of the Iran crisis. But that's getting solved, and it's being solved in a historic way. So what else are they going to be able to run on? The reflection pool is not it, right? And one of the things, and the reason why it's not it, by the way, is because everyone can acknowledge across the aisle, everybody, that DC is more beautiful now than it's been in 30 years. And so that it's just simply, they don't have a solution, and they're kind of going with the kitchen sink method, and people are seeing the difference.
Well, the other part that kind of backfires before we get into this consensus stuff that you sent me is they actually arrested a guy earlier today, right at the reflection pool, because he was actually pulling the paint back to try to damage it, and he got caught. And as far as the part where there was green, with the algae, you have the company that came out and said, yes, this is the residual algae that was in the pumping system, and it's doing what it's designed to do. Like, this is going to happen. This happens in any time that you go and you redo a pool like this. This is what's going to happen. We're prepared for it, and we're dealing with it. So even that thing is kind of getting explained away. So what is this that I'm looking at on my screen right here?
So this is the House forecast, and so this is 270 to win. One of the sites that's been tracking this, they actually take several. They take several polling outlets, but they also have like the kind of like a reliable pundit type of poll, meaning news media, right? And this is the houses that they're breaking down. So you can see right now as it sits. This is as of today. As of yesterday. That they currently have the House makeup at 211 Republicans, 205 Democrats, with 19 seats in tan, meaning those seats are on the fence. Those are going to be some of the battlegrounds. So if you're watching the show and you're wondering what seats are kind of up in the air, here's a good map of it, right? Not to say that some of the polling's reliable or not reliable. Let's not get into the weeds here. This is just going to show you where the battle is going to be fought, barring any unexpected surprises. So this is where it comes down to.
Now, with that, I want to run 4 states across to bring to your attention. Been referenced to me as the Dirty Four, right? And this is regarding the House. We're talking, the Senate, Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Michigan. How does that play into all this? I know we're talking about the House here, but when we're looking at the Senate, do you factor in that influence at all?
Yeah, I do. If you want to go to the next tab, which is going to be the Senate forecast. As it sits right now, according to PollMax, and again, this is just one outlet, but one outlet that I feel like is updating kind of consistently. If you're on X, then you're definitely going to be able to see this handle. It's showing that their current forecast is 52 Republicans to 48 Democrats. The 2 states that they're highlighting right now that are everyone's eyes are on, of course, is Maine. Susan Collins versus the Graham Plattner, who's an open socialist, right? So
he's the guy that had the Nazi tattoo on his chest.
The Nazi tattoo, but now he's embroiled in a massive sex scandal where he was on this app, I think it was called Kick or something of the sort, which is known for grooming underage minors, right, in a bad way, and he had no business on there. He has no answer for why he's on there, and every answer he's provided continues to show up other screenshots that are contradicting him. And so obviously Susan Collins, while is not MAGA, probably isn't the happiest with her sometimes, she's a steady force in Maine, right? And so folks are looking at that option. Ohio, you have a household name, Sherrod Brown, who was beat by Bernie Moreno, and it was a nasty election. But once again, the issue in Ohio in that election was the craziness of the left, the transgender issues, a host of other issues, right? Obviously the border was a massive one. And so now he's running again, because this is what happens. You run again when you lose in the Democratic Party. And he's running again. And I think he's probably their best candidate to run right now. And he's in some polling, it's a little closer, but right now, he's not winning. And so you see a shift, though, Alpha, when you look at the video screenshot, you're going to see a shift in both states and a couple of these other states. Again, the polling away right there at the end, right there, the polling away you notice is started in end of May, right? So we're seeing a change that's consistent here. Something has changed at the end of May and early June that has Republicans all of a sudden shooting up and Democrats shooting down. And I think it's the items that we've kind of identified.
That's very interesting. Let me ask you this. Let me shrink this real quick so I can bring it back. What do the numbers need to look like for Trump to, and granted, maybe I'm a little tinfoil hat realm here, but what do the numbers need to look like in the House and the Senate for Trump to have a super majority?
Oh man, that's a question, and I had to run the math for you. But really, the supermajority is defined as 60, basically 2/3. So what that means is 67% or higher in the House. I don't think that they're going to be able to get there. I think that they are going to still have a majority in the House if the Republicans hold on. Capital if the Republicans hold on, then they're going to have a tight majority, a tight enough majority that they're going to have to make sure they vote in a block to continue to get things done. Similar to what they're kind of doing right now. They may have a little bit larger of a majority when this is all said and done. They could have a little smaller majority, or they could lose it. It's kind of one of those games right now in the House. The question's on the Senate. Everything the House is passing a lot of times is favorable to this administration, but it gets locked down in the Senate. So here's the question. What do they need to have in the Senate to pass the administration's agenda in the final stretch? You're going to lose Mitch McConnell. You're going to lose Tom Tillis. You're going to lose Cornyn. And you're going to, as polling looks like, you're going to have a Republican majority in the House. And all they need is 50 votes plus one in that scenario. I would argue they will have almost a 50, at least a 50 to 51 vote out of the 52 if this holds strong, because you're losing multiple swamp creatures who just don't like Trump. Let's just call it what it is. And so they're going to be gone. So now the Republicans are in a different scenario going into the final stretch.
So let me ask you this, because we're down to just under 4 minutes. There's some breaking news that came in with, our former ODNI, Tulsi Gabbard, yesterday being her last day. Don't have enough time to play the entire clip, but I do want to read what she put in her post. And so she says, "Today, on my final day as director of the National Intelligence, I'm releasing never before seen communications and documents exposing how Dr. Fauci provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab, worked with politicized elements within the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions and hide the virus lab leak origins, and lied to Congress while under oath in 2024. It's time you know the truth." So one definitive problem there is the lying to Congress, perjury. What's kind of your take on this latest drop from her? We touched on her last week, and then she does this as she's going out the door and the reins get handed over to Pulte.
There are two things that the voters that supported Trump going into 2024's election want to see. Okay. They wanted to see the border be handled, the border issue be handled, and they want accountability. And there is no bigger red meat than Dr. Anthony Fauci and what took place in COVID. It wrecked people's lives. It ruined people's lives. They're getting accountability, throwing a lot of these, what people would term as rhinos, out of office in the primaries. They're handling that business. But it's the independents and the people that saw Bobby Kennedy come into the administration, saw Tulsi Gabbard that came into the administration, that saw Elon Musk and Joe Rogan and all of these people come to the table in coalition around the president because it was that severe of a moment. And they haven't seen the accountability that they need to see. And if Anthony Fauci, with the documents that are being released, I think we're going to see some accountability come to Anthony Fauci and come to other people here in the very near future. Obviously, you're hearing about the indictments surrounding Newsom's wife. You're hearing about the situations in California with some of the elections. You're seeing these things come to fold. And I think that we're going to have some accountability begin to happen in the coming months going into the election. And that could be a game changer. I will say this, though. I will caution folks, okay? You have to then take the mantle, if that's the case, and go to the polls and turn out to vote and those kinds of things, right? Because the tensions are going to be extremely high. And if this goes awry, based on your followers, right? If they support Trump or they're Republicans and they don't want these Democrats back in majority because of what they have done in the past, including COVID, the lockdowns, the wrecking of our schools, keeping grandmas and keeping people from, well, I can use my own personal experience, which I've told on your show, but if you got COVID, you couldn't get the needed surgeries you needed. If you had a loved one dying in the hospital or a nursing home, you couldn't come to them in their final moments. These people were responsible for that. And if they see accountability there, I think they're going to turn out to the polls and support this administration and give them another 2 years.
One last thing, 30 seconds, and then I'll let everybody know where to find you. For Democrats that were very pro the COVID vaccine and all these, well, not just Democrats, let's just say for everybody that was very pro vaccine and then sustained injuries from it, the group of people that did not vote for President Trump that became victims of these vaccine injuries, if all of a sudden they start to see this information surface with Fauci and they see accountability, is that enough to get some of those people to vote Republican?
Yes. Yeah, I believe it is. Not all of them, right? There's just some people who can't stand Donald Trump, right? But it's going to make them think twice. And I do think there's just enough. And again, these elections are not won by massive swarms of people, in that these elections are won into almost the thinnest of margins, right? At this point in time, there's not a lot of swing independent voters anymore. It's a turnout game at this point. It's a momentum game. And I think that this is what this administration needs to see in the final stretch. And I hope that they're going to do something about it, because these documents and these things that are coming out are damning. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, it's irrelevant. You can't lie and use our tax dollars for gain of function and lie under oath and have a wife who's your independent, watchdog. I mean, this is how corrupt the NIH was under Anthony Fauci. This is how corrupt it was. And it's even dirtier than what we even know right now. They want accountability. That's just the bottom line. They've always wanted accountability. They have to have accountability going into the midterms.
100% agree with you on that. Chris, for people that want to follow you and get more of your work, where can they find you at?
So you're going to see me on X, the Chris Moreno. My website's going to be up and everything next week. You're going to be able to, we'll feature it on here. And we got my show coming up here next month, is my hope. So we'll continue to go there.
There you guys have it. The House of Cards is following. And not only is it falling, I will say I agree with Chris on this. It's a momentum game, and it seems that Trump is absolutely playing the momentum. Do us a solid if you haven't done it already. Smash the thumb, hit the heart, leave a comment, share this out. Let's get this show on the leaderboard. We'll see you guys next Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific.